Let me start off this video by asking you a question. Are you somebody who deep down feels like you're an extrovert, but due to the adverse effects that your chronic condition ends up causing you, you find it close to impossible to actually go out there and socialise? And when I talk about socialising, I don't just mean heading out into town on a Friday night for drinks. This could be little interactions like when we communicate with our family, our friends, it might even be work colleagues. All of these little interactions seem to drain the energy of somebody with a chronic condition and causes them adverse effects like joint pain and muscle ache. But why does this end up happening? To answer this question, what I'm going to do is explain the situation that was going on with me and then link it into what might be going on with you and your body. So every day over the period of 7 years, I actually struggled to physically talk, which made filming videos very tough. Because what would end up happening is I often had to pick between talking and breathing, and when I would talk, I'd have to take a breath in between each sentence. Not only that, but whenever I had conversations with people, I'd always be very monotone and I'd just be very rigid, and I wouldn't feel like I had the energy to actually express any of my personality. And because I had all of these adverse effects happening to me while I was socialising, I never felt like I could be fully present in the moment with anyone that I was speaking to, because I was always concentrating on these symptoms. And the thing is, it wouldn't just be these things that I'd experience in the moment, but also knock-on effects that would end up affecting me the same evening and the day after. So this would be things like having poor sleep, neck tightness, bloodshot eyes with blurry vision, muscle and joint ache, and just an all-round negative mood with lethargy. Now, because I was experiencing this every single day for a number of years, it really got to me and I really had to try to find a way of understanding the situation. And where this all started for me, and where I really wanted to get to the bottom of, was to understand why my body was functioning in such a dysfunctional manner to such a basic everyday task. So what I ended up having was a thorough neurological examination, and one of the key things that was uncovered during this exam was that I had hyperactivity in part of my brain that was responsible for controlling my unconscious respiratory rate. And where the problem really comes into play is that when this issue is present, my body is unconsciously going to hyperventilate. So that means I'm going to blow off a lot of carbon dioxide, and that's going to end up having a lot of adverse reactions further on down in my body. And if you did want to go a little bit deeper into understanding the importance of this neurological exam and how it could potentially give you your life back, make sure to check out the Unbeatable Blueprint online course, where I'm going to share absolutely everything with you to get you from point A to point B in your recovery journey. But back onto the topic of this video and joint pain specifically. So when it comes to joint pain or muscle ache following socialising, it ends up coming at the end of a chain reaction of events, and one of the key reasons as to why this actually starts off is the reason I just spoke about, an increased unconscious respiratory rate. So what ended up happening in my case was that I had hyperactivity in part of my brain called the pons, which is actually part of the brainstem that helps to set the respiratory rates for your body. And because I had overactivity in this part, it caused me to hyperventilate at an unconscious level. So I was blowing off excess carbon dioxide, and this was slightly altering the pH of my system so that it became more alkaline. And a more alkaline pH, especially in the digestive tract, means that my body was having issues with absorbing calcium. And as a result, what it would end up doing is it would end up leaching calcium from my bones and my joints, which would end up causing the joint and muscle pain. Again, just to clarify, the chain of events involved unconscious hyperventilation leading to an excess loss of carbon dioxide, and that increased the pH, making my system more alkaline, and then that caused issues with absorbing calcium through the intestines, and as a result, my body then had to leach calcium from my bones. So that's the chain of events that were occurring. But why is it that socialising specifically seemed to exacerbate this series of events? And the reason for that is because talking or expressing emotion or just being in more stressful environments, all of these things are going to further increase your respiratory rate, because talking and socializing is a more complex way of breathing. So we're going to start consciously over breathing, and we're going to add that on top of the unconscious hyperventilation, and in turn that's really going to trigger this chain of events. So for me, the solution to this problem didn't involve avoiding socializing, and nor did it involve trying to address any of the symptoms that were caused as a result of this. The only way that I ended up making any sort of improvement was understanding what it was that was causing hyperactivity in the part of my brain that was controlling my unconscious respiratory rate, and then directly targeting that cause. And in my case, this was occurring because inaccurate sensory information was being continuously delivered to my brain by my somatic sensory division of my peripheral nervous system. Once these dysfunctions were actually identified and fine-tuned via various neurological exercises, I was actually able to enjoy socializing again without experiencing nearly as many symptoms or nearly as many knock-on effects the following day. And what I truly learned from this, and if you do want to see long-term improvements from a situation similar to this, what you really need to focus on is you need to focus on the cause and not the effects of the cause. So for me, what this involved was focusing all of my attention on making sure that information that was coming from my sensory nervous system into my brain was fine-tuned, because once all of this information was more coordinated, it calmed down my brain's hyperactive behavior, and as a result, it completely suppressed this chain reaction of events from occurring.